And joining me now to discuss those movements is the CEO of Busha Investment Group, Joseph Busha. Mr. Busha, as always, many thanks for your time this afternoon. Let's start with the overall markets. I alluded to the fact that it's been a volatile week for the JSE, a lot of it coming from the crackdown on tech stocks in China, filtering through onto our industrials, and of course the new variants of the coronavirus also making global markets a little bit jittery.
Well, COVID-19 certainly has been the big news, I think, in the markets in causing lots of volatility. One day, we kind of positive, but every time we get new variants, and I think investors get worried about that. You mentioned China there in terms of the crackdown on tech stocks. That was also kind of put investors on the nervous rock. The JSE was down about 2% for the week, certainly pushed down by the miners. You saw today Anglo American down about 7%. We also saw Kumba down about 5%. Steel prices or iron ore prices come down below $100 per ton. So the volatility on the equity market is certainly matched by the volatility on the rand after 3 weeks of gains. The rand roaring, and as importers were happy and exporters unhappy. But the reversal since Tuesday have seen now the rand weaken from about 14.20, 14.30 to the dollar to 14.75 to the dollar today. So there is weakness coming through there. There was also weakness in our retail sales data. And certainly, you see that the U.S. also is talking that they might reduce in terms of tempering on the bond market with their inflation also coming in check there. So it has been very, very varied reasons as to why we get massive volatility in our equity markets in the domestic market. But we hope that certainly these things will settle down as more people get vaccines, and hopefully they'll be able to contain the spread of the COVID-19.
And I'm glad you bring up the local unit, Mr. Busha, because it was showing some great strength earlier on this week. I think maybe late last week, early this week, I think we even saw levels of around 14.13, 14.14 before we went back down to 20 and now sitting at 75. Is that just a story about a stronger US dollar, or are there some other components that are affecting emerging market currencies?
So the commodity prices have been coming down. You saw iron ore dipping down, also crude oil tempering down. You saw Sasol shares down 4% today. So there are varied reasons for the local market. We thought basically it was becoming very attractive, in the second quarter of this year. But certainly things are turning to going back to about 2019. If you look in terms of where the overall JSE is from an index point perspective, it's now below 64,000 at about 63, going back to 62. We were failing to break for a very long time. So people, I think, are just nervous in terms of how we're going to, navigate the COVID. You saw results from FirstRand. I think they're saying, we still not really where we were pre-COVID, which is in 2019. So I think people are not really sure in terms of the recovery process, but also we had seen that our commodity related stocks have done very well, bumper profits throughout the whole year. So people have been taking profits, but certainly, the decline in commodity prices is also, just warning investors that we might not be able to see the same profits in the next reporting period.
Right, and just very briefly, Mr. Busha, final one, some company news. Spur Corporation releasing their trading update today. What did you make of those numbers? No doubt that there's still a bit of a struggle happening in the restaurant sector, the curfews, the lockdowns really having an impact on these businesses.
This is the owner of RocoMamas, Panaroti. You saw that, on level in terms of sales, it's just 1%. But if you look in terms of the first half of the year, you're looking at about an increase of 6-7%, but really just coming from a low base. If you look in terms of all the different franchises, RocoMama is basically shining, sales growth of about 13%, and everybody else is negative. Spice Off just about 2% growth in sales. So it's really a struggle out there as they try to adjust and possibly people going back to sit down. So it is going to really take possibly until December for us to be able to see the impact first of the unrest and also the impact we had with our own unrest in July. So there is struggle, but I think some of the companies are showing a little bit of recovery, and we're seeing people basically going back into sitting down again in the restaurants.
Mr. Busha, as always, many thanks for your time. He's the Chief Executive of Busha Investment Group, giving us a wrap of the markets week that was. So that's all.